Hello, one and all, and welcome to episode 67 of Opposite Field. It is a late Sunday night, and if you're still watching Sunday Night Baseball, then God bless you. But if you have come here as a companion broadcast, God bless you even more because it is myself, Trevor, and my compatriot Colin. And as you can see in the background, we are going into the depths of the all-star ballots. And while the paper that is in the background is no mas, you can no longer stuff the ballot physically. We are going to do our best to show what you should put into your digital ballot box before the Midsummer Classic coming up. With that very ranty intro aside, Colin, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Doing good. I'm excited to talk about this. This is always one of the best episodes we do a season.
Yeah, this in one of
This is a
the
trade deadline.
off-season
They're
like
really
signing
fun.
episodes. Yeah,
Yeah, they're really fun. But I look forward to this because it's a fun time.
yeah, it gets you to kind of put a lot of things in perspective against
Yeah,
what the voting preferences are of the general public against kind of what we're thinking slash what
mhm.
should be because it's very subjective in a lot of lights of
Right.
just who you think should be in based on well their their team standing, what they provide in terms of because there's certain players where there's stats that are very deceiving where a guy may have like not a very attractive batting average, but his OBP kind of makes up for it. The Kyle Schwarbers of the world, if you will. And
And
there's
correct me if I'm wrong, but out of the four major sports, is it the only All Star where like they try to get a representative from every team, even if they're not All Star material?
yes,
Okay.
this is the truly fully representative All Star game,
Yeah.
and that's something that I really think baseball kind of had. That's a bit of the charm of it,
Yeah.
where not always that you're gonna like find guys that are so we're just gonna take a middle reliever from this team because there's nobody else to really pull from. And I think in a lot of instances that is it's kind of fun where you're trying to go like, okay, who are we gonna take from the Rockies? Because
But on the flip side of that, if you're the best player on the Rockies, I think you should go, you know?
no, and I think that is what encapsulates the term all star.
Hmm.
Because yeah, we've always had those arguments about MVP and all these things of like silver slugger in baseball. There's a lot of things where there's going, oh well, this guy is only here because he's on the best team. Well, yes, with these awards, yeah, you kind of want to reward the team's performance
Yeah,
commensurate to the guy's performance, where you're like,
right.
all right, this guy hit 45 home runs and hit 315 for a team that won the division. That is
Exactly.
a guy that you want to put in MVP conversation. But like an all star, and I'm with you on that front. I think you need to kind of just have that really wide net where yeah the starters and that is what we're going to go over this evening, the
Right.
people that we have voted for the starting roles. And the voting process has kind of got wonky this year. We're not voting, we as fans are not voting for pitchers,
Yeah.
and we're getting a certain crop of players into a second phase of voting. So right now we're kind of just doing what we see at this time,
As a
June
deserving
25th.
deserving member, basically.
Yeah, who we think are most deserving of that starting role, not not discounting players from teams that are going to have representation otherwise.
Correct.
So, yeah, with that being said, the All Star game is something that I think has kind of been bastardized by the sport over the years because there's, and I think it comes from a place after the whole the tie that was like, oh well, it's got to mean something instead of just realizing in that one moment, no, it doesn't. We can just let it be its own thing, and everybody can go from there. And
I mean, I also, and I don't know how you feel about this. I don't know if we ever talked about this, but I personally think the home run derby is more entertaining to watch than the slam dunk contest. As someone who enjoys the slam dunk, and one of the biggest reasons I think so is because the stars participate in the home run derby, where you don't necessarily get the big dunk or the big names in the dunk contest.
no, I agree, and I think the home run derby is maybe the main event of the All-Star weekend.
Oh, by far.
Which is kind of what has diminished the game as it's in itself because you're going to get.
Oh, you don't like the celebrity softball game?
No, I don't need to see Kevin Hart again doing something. He's everywhere. Like he's in every single celebrity game. Like I'm sure there was like the NHL All-Star Weekend. I didn't watch it. I'm sorry. But I'm sure if Kevin Hart was given the opportunity to do like the NHL Celebrity Skills Game or whatever, he would have done it.
Oh yeah.
Kevin Hart is a guy that just I don't think there is a gig that he will turn down at this stage, even though he is making millions of dollars hand over fist. He just can't help himself.
I think one of the things is like he's short and he wants to prove that he's athletic. You know.
There's that consistent Napoleonic complex with him. With like, you just like but we get it though, Kev. Like you've made 41 movies in the past 18 months. we know your bank account is just absolutely overflowing. You can stop. Like you can pump the brakes just a smidge, and nobody will think less of you. Just
but yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of cool memories in the last at least 15 years of the home run derby, whether it be Josh Hamilton's great home run derby at Yankee Stadium, or Bryce Harper, or any one of those guys, Pete Alonso. It's always fun, and like the only like real dunk contest thing that I like remember a lot is like the Dwight Howard one, or like Blake Griffin over a car, and I don't you don't really
I agree
remember.
With you. I can name 10 iconic home run derby things from the past 15 years before I can name 3 dunk contests. In basketball is my favorite sport. In overall, it's the one that I can pull the most from, and in terms of just those skill competitions, the home run.
But I remember like Ortiz winning it against I think it might have been Guerrero's last year at in Anaheim, and so that was always cool to see. And I just think that again, going back to All Stars, you get the big names that go up there and put on a show because you want to see that. You want to see Aaron Judge, who can hit 50 home runs a year, go out and put a show on.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of one of the big things that baseball does right in terms of the home run contest, where the dunk contest, they're just kind of pulling people that agree to it, where you're getting guys in the home run derby that are in the like top 5 of home runs in either league the vast majority of the time, unless it's a guy like defending his title.
Right.
There's a couple times where that has been where like, oh no, this guy is either hurt or this, that, and the other, but we're bringing him in just because you don't want to have a lame duck champion, and I understand that part a lot of times because it's just it makes it it always makes it fun to have somebody to kind of like conquer.
Right.
And that's I think a lot of times something that sports fans kind of take for granted, where it's like, oh, it's not necessarily a villain, but it is somebody that you need to like usurp.
Yes. Yeah.
And especially like Pete Alonso is a guy that he's kind of been up and down over the years, but in like the home run derby,
Yeah.
he's
He's
a
been
guy
up.
that you need to worry about.
Right.
when
Right.
when you're like, okay, now even if he has a crappy year the year after that, you got to make him a part of it because he you know you're going to get a show out of it.
Yeah.
And in the end, that is the biggest part of it. You want guys that are going to put on a show, even if it is not necessarily meritorious from the past season. You're going to put enough guys in there where it is.
Yeah.
So if you kind of sneak that guy and it's like, oh well, he only has 8 home runs this year, but he won last year or he was the runner-up last year, and if
Right.
you put him in, if anybody says anything, they can go get fucked.
Right. And
Yeah.
and the All-Star game has its, it's not without its moments. I think it's cool to see the guys having fun out there, and um, obviously one of the big highlights is that everyone that they show at least every All-Star is Troy Hunter, Robin Barry Bonds, and then Barry Bonds going out there and grabbing it. It's
Yeah.
just a fun thing, and then they get a car at the end. MVP gets the car.
Get a car that they immediately sell on eBay Motors these days.
Yeah. So I think it's it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and what we're about to do, I think, is the most fun part about the All-Star, picking the people to go into it.
Yeah, and I think just looking through the ballot this year, I think we've kind of reached that point as just a general fandom where we're not just picking Red Sox and Yankees
Yeah.
in the AL, and there isn't a team getting the ballot box stuffed in the
That
NL,
just
because that was something that was a real big problem for probably
yeah.
like
In the
5 or 6
early
years, where you
yeah.
were getting guys that are like you were getting them, and well, this is dating back a bit. You were getting like the Mark Lorettas of the world,
Right.
like going 600,000 votes above the next person just because they were on the Red Sox, or you were getting a team in the NL like Philadelphia would get the ballots
Yeah.
stuffed, or Milwaukee would really just go hard in the paint and get everybody in there, and you're
I
and you're seeing like certain guys. We were getting like Jonathan Lucroy winning by 1 million votes, and you're like,
right.
wait, what?
Yeah. And as it's funny because we had to have a conversation earlier in the week about this topic, and
Yeah,
I think we were both kind of like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun because it's a mess." And I went into looking at these guys thinking, "Oh man, like I don't want to put 100 Dodgers on the All-Star, or I don't want to put 100 Philly." But I'm looking through the list. It's there's a lot of people you can pick from. It's pretty wide
yeah. We,
spread.
I think we were overly uh, we were pessimistic going in,
Yeah.
thinking that we were going to be disappointed by the general public by what they were picking.
Yep.
And at least from my perspective, I don't see a lot of deviation from the consensus for me. At
Yeah.
least in
I
the
I have
American
a
League. The
few.
American League, I got a lot of chalk. In the National League, I'm kind of off the beaten path a bit, but it's one of those things where you can have that argument, which is what it's all about, kind of.
Yeah, when I made my list, there was a lot of things I took into consideration where, if somebody had more home runs than somebody else, but that guy had a better batting
Yeah,
average and was consistent, who do you go with? Do you go with the flashier guy, or do you go to like the guy that can get on base? Also, like, let's say for example, like 4 Braves have 20 home runs, but like one Milwaukee Brewer had 21. Maybe that Brewer guy deserves it because you don't want to overstuff the team with Phillies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and especially because Milwaukee, with that general thing, like Milwaukee is kind of running away with that division right now,
Right.
and you may want to reward a player that if you have that guy on the fence where
Yeah.
you're going, oh, I could pick him or him. I'm gonna go with the Milwaukee guy just because that's rewarding both him and his team for their first half performance.
And I did,
I'm with you on that.
I had a few of those. There are a few of those undecided and which
And you get
path to
swayed from
choose.
that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. So you want to start with the AL, NL? What do you want to do?
I think do you want to go by position by league, or do you just want to run through one league and go to the other? I'm
I want
cool.
to I want to run through because I think we're going to have a lot more conversation about the NL than the AL.
All right. I'm 100% on board with that. I totally agree. So we'll go through the AL real quick,
Okay.
and that's when we can kind of have our
I just
more
feel like I feel like we're going to be too similar in the AL than we are in the NL.
yeah, I don't think I think just from our conversations plus the general just like voting sentiment,
Yeah.
looking at everything and trying to just put it together, yeah, I don't think there's going to be much in way of the AL versus NL.
Yeah. So with that said, why don't we start with first base, go around the diamond, and then the
Uh,
outfield? You want to do that?
yeah, absolutely.
So who is your AL starting first baseman?
Mine is Baltimore's Ryan Mountcastle.
Oh, so we are different right off the bat.
Oh, really? Okay.
I,
We
I have
just said we were going to be.
I so we can talk a little bit afterwards about okay. So I went with the Guardian Josh Naylor.
that's that's not a bad shout at all.
And I think what the reason okay, I should just come out with it. I didn't want to overstuff the AL with Baltimore Orioles. Uh, and I have one on there. I wanted to make it divert, but close enough where you can justify my picks.
No, that's my thing is I think I got a decent spread between the
Hmm.
divisions. I'd say it is looking back very AL East heavy in my mind, but that
Uh,
is not
okay,
that's not terrible to
maybe
go that
maybe
route.
maybe this is gonna be a lot more different than I thought it was gonna be. I so I went with because I believe me, I sat on Mount Castle for a while, and I was just like my thought was like, well, other than the average, their numbers are not that much different. Naylor had 20 home runs and 58 RBI. And Mountcastle is, I think, right behind him in terms of home run. Where is he on home runs? Here's what he have.
So yeah, Mountcastle's at 277, 1139. My thing with him is that he is kind of more of the I think complete player. Like Naylor is a guy that has he's going to tick all those like power boxes,
Yep.
but on the field, and I'm not sitting here trying to say that like Mountcastle is this like Gold Glove legend, but I think if you're trying to just like get a full spectrum of everything, he's a guy that can really. I think that Baltimore needs a lot of representation,
I do.
and that's just
I
me.
do too. I really do too. But I just think that they're gonna get it, even if it's a lot of reserves.
And we got a comment. Not Andrew Vaughn. Uh, I would not be surprised if he is the Chicago representative on the roster. I don't think
Yeah.
they're going to get any pitchers.
Nope. He's not gonna get.
Maybe a reliever, but we're
Yeah.
not voting relievers today. he's definitely a guy that I think could be their representative because
their lone representative.
And trying to look at it as as a manager, if I wanted a guy to come off the bench in like the 7th inning, if my team was losing, he's a guy that I'd want to pinch hit with.
Yeah.
And I think as weird as that sounds,
Yeah.
I think there's some of these managers that are going to bring these guys that are kind of iffy in that thing where like,
Go have fun.
I don't care if this guy's batting average is like 30 points below somebody else. If I'm gonna try to win the All-Star game, I'm gonna take this guy that I want to pinch hit in the 7th inning more than the guy that's hitting 30 points better than him.
Yeah.
So Andrew Vaughn is a good shout as a substitute and like as the rep for the thing. I'm just not gonna put him as a starter when you got probably 3 or 4 guys that you can firmly put ahead of him.
Yeah, I agree.
So all right. So we've already
got off. Yeah,
we're off to a very split start on first base. Who do you got at second?
Jose Altuve.
All right, we're 0 for 2.
Whoa, who do you have?
I'm in the same division.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you that Jose Altuve, in any other circumstance, probably should be the pick. But I am a spiteful cunt in a lot of circumstances, and so I've gone with Marcus Semien because I refuse to vote for Jose Altuve in any.
Okay. Funny you said that. So I was gonna pick Semien, and I was like, "Here's the thing," and we alluded to it, or we didn't allude to it. We started with it. When it comes down to popular votes, he's gonna get it because he's, you know what I mean. Even though Marcus Semien being in the All-Star game as a starting second baseman wouldn't turn heads at all. Like he deserves.
And as it stands, Jose Altuve is number 1 in the All-Star voting.
Yeah,
and we'll go back to as in the AL first base, Mountcastle is second, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is first.
So it is a positive. So that's the thing. It's like you see, I'm trying to deviate from the popularity contest because Vlad Guerrero Jr. First of all, the Blue Jays are not having a good season any way you look at it, and second of all, he's not been a bright spot. I mean, the only for a guy who's looked at as the power hitter, the face of that franchise, he's only has 8 home runs through almost half of the season. I think his average.
The guy that they just brought up for the injured Bo Bichette just got suspended for
steroids. Today, right? Today for 80 games.
Yeah, that's a team in disarray.
Yeah. So okay. So put Guerrero on your list if you want. He just, and again,
I think he's with Andrew Vaughn. He's a guy that is going to make the team as a reserve.
I mean, so he's hitting 279, 9 home runs, and 33 RBI. So he's already behind power numbers in both Mountcastle and Naylor.
But so the argument is, who else from Toronto would you take? I don't think you're taking any of those pitchers. You're not taking any of the relievers. So he's a guy that you take as a reserve.
Is George Springer not having a good season?
Let's take a little look-see as what George Springer.
I mean, if it came down to those two, he's going over George Springer, but
yeah, he's hitting 191 with 5 home runs and 15 RBIs. So yeah,
all right, there you go. There you go. And you know what? The other thing is that Guerrero Jr. is probably going to be in the home run derby this year. He seems to be one of the guys that does it every year since he's been in the league. So he'll be there at least.
Yeah, he'll be in the building.
So we'll go into shortstop.
Yeah, I think more than anything, the argument for Semien versus Altuve is whether you want a guy that whether you want a guy that will bring some. I think Altuve is a guy that you could kind of work some segments around
Mm-hmm.
at the All-Star game, which seems like a dumb reason to vote for somebody.
Yeah.
Whereas Marcus Semien, I think, is a bit more bland in
Well,
terms of
I mean,
that.
the other thing about Marcus Semien that I think we should take into consideration is that the All Star game is in Arlington or
Yeah,
wherever they play now, and they just won the World Series, so that could factor into him or a few Rangers being representative. I don't have any on my list, but it wouldn't surprise me if a few of them
yeah.
would.
The fact that he's second right now,
Yeah.
and that there doesn't seem to be any other Rangers that are like locked in to get into those spots
Hmm.
means there could be, as you look at the ballot stuffing in the background image, there could be something where they kind of just really hard focus on getting one guy in because they know they won't be able to get a lot of people in.
Yeah.
And in staying in the division, uh, I don't think we're gonna, as good of a story that'd be. We got to get Zach Geloff above the Mendoza line before we're putting him in there. And that's the thing with the A's. I think there's a lot of guys that where you're going, you gotta get somebody in there. There
Yeah.
has to be somebody that you put there. And I think there's too many good closers in the AL where you don't want to put one of their relievers in there because it feels as if you put like Mitch in there and you're like, oh, or we brought him in, oh, he's like this great young closer, and then you don't use him.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's crap. Whereas if you bring a hitter and you pinch hit him or you pinch run him, it's kind of innocuous.
Yeah.
Like you're giving the guy kudos for being good on a bad team,
Right.
but you're not really discounting the fact that he was brought there. And I think that stinks a lot of times where these leagues bring pitchers that they know they're not going to pitch because it's a showcase in the end.
Right.
The All-Star
Right.
game is a showcase, and when you bring people in and you know you're not going to pitch them, or you're like in the middle of the seventh inning and like you're throwing out starting pitchers instead of relievers,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of shitty.
Yeah. Yeah. I do too. And also again, going back to the conversation, I still think you have to be the best person on a bad team to go there, whether you play or not. That's when you really look at the numbers and be like, okay, this guy
Yeah.
leading his team in the ERA or whatever. Let's just ship him out there.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we are normally doing these things. We kind of be bringing the pitchers into account, but the way the balloting is set up this year, we're only focusing on the starting lineup, which
Yeah.
hopefully when the phase 2 voting comes out, we get to talk about.
Yeah, we'll circle back around.
We get to go through everything with a bit of a finer tooth comb, but until then, we are where we are, and this is how this is going to work. So we are at this point we're moving on to third base.
No, shortstop.
On the ballot, third base is next.
All right.
I know it's not the way it is on the field, but I'm just going by the ballot. I'm streamlining down the website.
So this is the one outside of the outfield that I think I'm confident we have the same one. But now I'm not so sure.
Okay, did he recently have to go on paternity leave?
Oh, I don't
If
know
you're okay.
that. I don't know.
Okay. Is your guy from the AL Central?
Yes.
Okay, Jose Ramirez.
Yes.
There we go.
All
There
right.
we go.
Yes.
We finally
Yes.
got a match. Nice,
All
nice.
right. All right.
Yeah, I think that uh,
That speaks for
as much
itself.
as, and we're going to talk about the amount of Orioles I put on this thing. A lot of people have been talking about like Jordan Westberg, and there's a lot of buzz going around about like Royce Lewis. Ooh, little burpskis. And I think there's going to be late ballot stuffing for Rafael Devers, despite the Red Sox kind of being mad in like in the public sphere. Like they're not like dead in the water in terms of the standings, like
Yeah,
Toronto is.
I don't know if see. I don't think it's if I think the Red Sox. Okay, I can't really. I don't think it's going to be Devers out of the hitters. I think it's going to be Duran.
Ooh. So do you think he's going to be the guy that like sneaks in as the third?
As a reserve.
As
Yeah,
a third? Oh, as a reserve. Okay.
yeah. But I see. We're not talking about it, but I should say that I have a Red Sox pitcher going to the All Star game as well.
Yeah, in terms of pitchers, I'd say for the Red Sox, I think pitchers is where you're going to get your
It's
representation.
definitely, but I think if they're
But
gonna get a hitter, I think it's gonna be Duran over Devers. A lot of people are kind of souring on Devers lately.
we've seen it before where there's just that late push
Yeah.
on either a Yankee or a Red Sox hitter,
Mhm.
and or maybe when it comes to like the final vote, they're always going to throw like
One of
one
those
of
guys.
each in
Yeah.
there. And Devers is a guy that I think could uh, make that, yeah, sneak
Because
in
he's a
there.
name. Because he's a name. Yeah.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
know, I think Jose Ramirez just
Clear cut.
clear cut for what he's done for Cleveland, uh, both just in terms of overall numbers and what he's done in clutch situations for that team
Mhm.
is phenomenal. I don't think.
And they are a better team than I thought they were gonna be.
Oh, both of us thought Cleveland were going to be in like third place at best,
Yeah.
and they are crushing in that division.
Hmm.
So yeah, as always, I love being proven wrong
Yeah.
because that means somebody that I said a particular thing like, oh, this is their like weakness. They've either addressed it
Right.
and are moving past my prognostication of like, oh man, I'm so smart. And this, because a lot of times when fans like talk about stuff and they're going, oh man, this like the team knows where they're deficient.
Right.
The team knows where they need to fix things, but they don't always do it.
Yeah.
So when you see a team and you're like, oh God, they need to get X, Y, and Z done, and you just go, all right. When they do it, you kind of take that for granted.
Right.
You're going, oh, this team saw where they were weak and fixed it, and now they're good.
Yeah.
And it's mind blowing. You're like,
Yeah.
no, it shouldn't be. It's people doing their job and plugging the gaps of things that are a huge part of what makes their organization tick. And
And
that
and
it's
and, and with
yeah,
with with uh with Shane Bieber, kind of his career kind of up in the air with the injuries that he's been on lately. Jose Ramirez has really become the face of that franchise,
yeah,
uh, and has really taken the reign in dictating what direction that team goes.
yeah. And that's there's a lot of young pitchers like
Hmm.
McKenzie, Lively, Bibby. There's guys that were kind of expected to like slot in behind Bieber, and when he went down for the season, especially going down after two just absolutely beautiful starts.
Yeah.
Like he didn't give the old Corey Kluber where it's just, oh, I'm gonna get a 2 ERA, and then next year I'm gonna get a 27 ERA, and I'm gonna blow my arm out, and then we're
Right.
gonna do this.
Yeah.
It was something where it kind of just went south real quick, and they
Right.
all had to adjust. And we're sitting here, and we've sung the praises of Minnesota, who is one of the streakiest teams in the league. They can
Mhm.
go on a 8-game winning streak as easily as they can go on a 10-game losing streak.
Yep.
Kansas City, who has an incredibly solid rotation,
Yep.
but an offense that can go off for 17 runs and then not score for a week.
Yeah.
It's going to be something that comes down the stretch to be
I think it might be one of the most important division to watch when it comes to the trade deadline.
and we
Be-
talked about it coming into the year how it was going to be bad, but I think
yeah.
now there's so many teams that have filled in the gaps that we didn't think they were going to,
Yeah.
just from like past experiences where like, oh, they're not going to go make this move, or they're not going to call this guy up, because that's just all we knew.
Right.
We were going off past experiences, and now they have these rosters where they're really just going to go for it. I'm totally with
Per-
you.
per-
It's
a
going to be
per-
interesting to see who is really big buyers.
And a perfect example of that is, you know, uh, one of the teams that's become a real icon for this podcast is the Mariners, and we've talked about how the Mariners have been kind of disappointed when we talk, and now they've kind of flipped that switch and been one of the better teams. So can they do something to improve their team going forward? So it's going to be a very interesting trade deadline. I'm very excited when we get to that to talk about that stuff. But
Yeah.
I think one of the best parts about it this year is how many teams are in it by the All Star game. So we can kind of talk about, we don't have to dismiss the Royals by July 16th because they're in it, or we don't have to dismiss Seattle because they're in it. So the guys that are coming from those teams are pretty deserving because their teams are in good positions right now.
Yeah. And you don't have to be like, oh, this guy's gonna make the All-Star team, but who's he gonna be playing with on July 31st?
Right.
Yeah, I agree. But a guy that we're gonna move to shortstop now, and I think we're gonna be in similar congruence with this one. A guy
This was
that,
this was the one position I thought we would disagree with.
oh boy,
Yeah.
okay,
Go
I'll
on.
let you go first then.
No, I want you to go first.
I'm I'm being a chalky boy. I'm going Gunnar Henderson.
And I knew you would, and I'm going Bobby Witt Jr.
Okay. All right. That's not something where you're going crazy with it.
No, it's one A and one B the way I look at it.
And it's in my eyes, it's a speed versus power thing. And not to say
Hmm.
that Bobby Witt Jr. is not a guy that doesn't possess power, a guy that doesn't have 30-30 potential.
Hmm.
But I think just Gunnar Henderson is a guy that I think is worthy of that. And I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to get in regardless.
I completely agree with you. And again, this is more my mentality of I don't want a bunch of Orioles on the field, even
No,
though they're deserving of. My thing is
you're
with
trying to spread the wealth.
yeah, and if
And
I'm
that's
gonna
completely fair.
and if I'm gonna pick someone that's not an Oriole, because I agree they should all be there, why not give it to someone that's hitting 312, very consistent, paid as the face of the franchise from a team that you would not think of had that kind of money. And he has delivered on that paycheck.
As it currently stands, it is 1-2 in the voting.
Yeah,
So both guys are going to go. I don't think anybody's going to usurp either of those guys. They're going to go to phase two, and they're going to battle it out to see who is the representative, and that's
and
going to be a fun vote because they're going to have a lot of people that are looking at different sets of statistics,
yeah,
and that
yep,
I think that's going to be fun. Where you're going to have a lot of really uh, and as bad as baseball can be in terms of like stat heads versus uh, just general ball game fans.
yeah,
I think you're going to have some productive conversations because you're going to have to really just put those two resumes in perspective and be like, hey, this is what this guy does really well, and just there's like really two pods of things that he is going to, no matter what you want the other guy to be better than him at, it's not going to happen.
right.
So you just have to see, are the things that he does for his team more important in your eyes than what this guy does for his other team? And I think overall, you may get a lot of more people on your side because people are going to be more drawn to the Royals story, even though neither team's in first place. But it is one of those things where like Baltimore was a 101 team last year.
And the other thing is that I
And
think a
yeah,
lot of,
and Kansas City's
uh,
on the come up.
but and the other thing is that on piggybacking off of your thing, no one saw the Yankees being as good as they are. And I think a lot of people expected the Orioles to not just win that division, but make it to the World Series. So to pick a team like the Royals, who I want to remind you was my pick to win the AL Central, uh, having a good season, because I also don't think that uh, Bobby Witt is going to be the only Kansas City Royal to represent at the
No,
All Star game.
I think that in terms of pitching, I think they're
Yep.
going to get Seth Lugo there.
That's
And,
actually my
and
pick who I think is going to start for the AL.
and they may get another position player. Who that is, it may determine to see if a couple of guys fall
Can kind
off.
of,
I
yeah,
think the infield is where they may get the second
yeah.
guy, but we'll see how that comes over the next couple weeks, especially when it gets into the second phase and then the managers and players start having their say on who gets in as reserves.
And I want to preference it by saying it was incredibly hard for me to not have a bunch of Orioles in this lineup.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Because I initially went through and then I have 4 Orioles in my starting lineup. I originally had 5,
Okay.
and I tried to talk myself down to 3, and I couldn't do it
Okay.
because this was one of the positions where I tried to go down, and I'm like Gunnar Henderson is just a guy that he's incredibly important, and he's
Yeah.
done so much in terms of just uh, and what baseball and we've talked about the gaps in their attempts at marketability.
Yeah.
He was a guy that started off super hot and had a bunch of like home run numbers, which the old checks dig the long ball type deal. It's something where you could go, oh, this guy is hitting home runs at his age at a incredible pace, and is something that you could put in the home run derby
Yeah.
as well,
Right.
and then you have that kind of crossover. Whereas I think your pick, Bobby Witt Jr., is a guy that is going to make if he doesn't make the roster, there needs to be an investigation. But yeah, I would not mind seeing both guys in the All-Star game in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
All right. So, rounding out the infield, what do you know? I picked another Baltimore Oriole.
And so did
Adley
I.
Rushman.
Me too.
Yes.
I think where you were talking about Gunnar Henderson, I think Adley Rutschman is actually the most important person in that lineup. Just for, I mean, I think the catcher is one of the most not over, underlooked,
Underappreciated. Yeah.
underappreciated. And, for what he did, you look at the Baltimore Oriole rotation, it's not that bad, especially with, what they envision as, I think, a kind of pseudo ace in Corbin Burns, who's having a pretty good year for them.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to do with Adley Rutschman and how he calls games. And he also, by the way, can swing a bat.
Yeah.
So that's a hard, you think of kind of those kind of guys that can do both. You think of Joe Mauer, or you think of any one of the brothers
You go
that could
back to
do it.
early Jorge Posada
Things like
before
that.
he couldn't throw.
Yeah, yeah, the Mike Posada, the Mike Piazzas of the world, or whatever. Adley Rutschman is important on both sides of the field, and I think if I'm going to put any Baltimore Oriole player in the lineup, it's him.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to kind of like discount everybody else, but he is like second place is the ageless Salvador Perez. And I don't think there's anybody else within like striking distance that you could make a significant argument for.
No,
There, I heard people trying to sing the praises of the immortal Connor Wong a couple days ago, and I go, calm down. Like, there's only so much that you can talk from like a basically a part-time catcher.
but the
And
other thing is that if you're going from Adley Rutschman to Connor Wong, that's a big gap in catchers in the AL.
yeah, and
So
that's something where you're trying to.
it's not like
I
it's
think
not
I
like
think
Gunnar
it's
Henderson
a
and
very
Bobby Witt.
trolly argument at that
Yeah,
point.
of course it is.
Yeah,
And that's where I just kind of dismiss that and be like, no,
yeah,
that's the difference between knowing baseball and just being a fan of your team and not caring about
and
anybody
just
else.
seeing three. There's a 3 at the start of his average. I pick him because he plays for my team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think that Adley Rutschman is by far the clear cut best catcher, maybe in the
In the
league.
Amer-
Maybe in the league,
at least in the American League.
with the
Yeah.
exception of possibly Will Smith. He's one of the best catchers in baseball right now, if not the.
Yeah, and I think we agree that he's easily the choice in the American League.
Oh yeah.
So now we get to do a little 3-pack.
Yep.
And we're gonna do all 3 on the rip. We're not gonna
Okay.
go position by position. We're just gonna
Nope.
rip the Band-Aid off. It's gonna be great.
Okay.
Your outfielders. Who do you got?
Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, and I think I'm gonna put Jared Duran as that extra outfielder.
All right. I got one of those 3.
Okay. Is it Juan Soto?
It is not.
Is it Judge?
It is Aaron Judge.
I also debated putting Aaron Judge on because is he hurt?
My thing, and this is kind of falls into a lot of pitfalls. Aaron Judge is a guy that I think if his numbers are in the ballpark to be voted in organically, you need to. He's not a guy where if he was hitting like 210 with like 8 home runs and 40 RBIs, it's like, oh, we gotta get Aaron Judge in, so we're just gonna vote him in. but he's a guy that is he's hitting 300.
He's leading the AL in home runs.
And he's got I think 70 RBIs, if memory serves me correctly. I wrote it down, but I scribbled it.
It's like 68, I think.
He's at 70.
Yeah, okay.
With an OPS over 1,000. That's a guy that you gotta put in no matter what.
So before you mention your guy, why not Soto?
My thing with Soto, and currently as it stands, Judge is 1 and Soto is 2 in the voting.
Yeah.
My thing with Soto is I didn't want to put 2 outfielders from the same team.
Okay.
And that's dumb in retrospect, because looking at it objectively, I should have put Juan Soto in over Anthony Santander. To be completely honest, I put him there because I thought that giving Baltimore that representation was something that they weren't going to get through the process of the player and the manager voting. So I was trying to be that champion. I was trying to be that person that got all them in, so you didn't have to worry about that secondary voting from the players and the managers. And that's not necessarily the best perspective to have, because it's kind of downplaying getting the best players into the lineup.
Well, my whole thing about it is not just that he's putting up good numbers, but like I think he has turned that Yankees team around, just being on the team. First of all, I don't think Aaron Judge has had this kind of a number 2, if you will, in a long time. And I think that Judge has always been an amazing player, but it seemed like Soto had kind of elevated his play this season. And again,
he's the guy that wants to get that big Trout contract.
Yeah, and of course he does. But also, like, nobody expected the Yankees to be as good as they are. There's no way anyone expected them. Their rotation is a 6 at best. Let's be honest. Like, without Garrett Cole, there's no true ace. You're going off Carlos Rodon, who's okay at bat. Marcus Stroman, who's almost at the end of his career.
Luis Gil has been huge for them this year.
He has been, yeah. But I mean, like, you think about like last year when like
you said, yeah. Looking
at Reno was there, like I think that the addition of Soto had kind of like brought new life, and it of course it helps that he can basically wiffle ball a home run in that stadium. But just think about what Soto did for the Padres and what he's doing for the Yankees. It's night and day.
Yeah, it is crazy. So, since we're going to talk about a Boston player very shortly, we're going to, who the fuck is Tingus Bingus? And other than a guy that made me kick a telephone pole when he was drafted by the Knicks, he is a current NBA champion. So we can leave it at that. I'll send you the link for the. There's a video from way back where there was I think it was like a Lonely Island thing that was done through like SNL, where like, when will the beat drop? And then somebody made the button like draft Porzingis, and then just everything went crazy. And I was like, I think that's something I've saved over time. I can't remember if I've saved it to my Google Drive or not, but I know I have it somewhere, and I will find it and I will send it to you by the end of this week. I will not put it onto this stream today because I cannot guarantee I can find it by the end of this, and it is 10:37, and I do not have the motivation to find it this evening. But what I do have the motivation to talk about is our last outfielders, because I mentioned that I have Anthony Santander
Yep.
versus Juan Soto, and looking at it objectively, I think you've made the right choice between those two. Like
Mhm.
Soto is a guy that I think is more deserved. I've talked about my thing. Like I want to get the Orioles in there
Yeah.
through the voting because I don't think a lot of those guys are going to get in through the secondary channels,
Okay.
and that's just my weird brain going at it. I think Soto is a guy that is very justified in that role,
Mhm.
and having two Yankees in that outfield is not out of place given where their record is
Right.
in terms of the entire league. But your guy versus my last guy, Stephen Kwan versus Jaron Duran. Uh, where do you think Duran just overall? Do you think it's something where that may be your lone Red Sox that's not like Kenley Jansen or something, or you're not getting one of the starting pitchers in there? You're not getting you don't think that one of those guys are going to get picked just because there is a kind of plethora of good pitchers on better teams. Even though I think Boston, when you're looking at the rotation, should get at least one of those guys in there. What's your thought process behind trying to like shoehorn Duran in there? Is it something where you feel trepidatious about other guys not getting in, and you're like, we need to get at least one guy in here because this team at least needs somebody of prominence?
Well, I think my whole thing is that Duran, while can hit the long ball, he's not a guy that every time he gets up to the plate, you think he's gonna hit one out. But I think that he hits the ball real well. I think that he's becoming a better center fielder than he was the last couple of years. I think that whatever Boston fans are still watching the team kind of gravitate towards him. And I think, like I said, a lot of people have soured on Rafael Devers, and they need a new player to cling to. And why not get someone that a young kind of looks like he's having fun out there? Um, when Tristan Cassis went down, he kind of became the young guy that they brought up through the system, that would be like hopefully a cornerstone or maybe a trade bait for someone else. But like, I think he's a guy that like while the Red Sox don't have a lot of things going, even though for some weird reason they're the hottest team in baseball. Um, I think that he's a guy that people can gravitate towards in terms of like that Boston dirt dog kind of player. Um, and so I think that there's going to be a lot of people. What you said, like the whole troll kind of Wong thing, but I do think a lot of legitimate Red Sox fans and like people that watch young players will kind of gravitate towards him. Um, I don't think there's any other hitters deserving. Not Tyler O'Neill. No, I don't think Rafael Devers
So
deserves
yeah,
it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Um, there's no Trevor Story. There's no Tristan Cassis. There's, I mean, there's, uh, like, who you got? There's Rob Renfield, Snyder. Like, this is kind of what the Red Sox are now. So if you Devers isn't going to be the guy, why not another homegrown talent that kind of have? I mean, he saved the game yesterday with a robbing a home run. So he's kind of trying to put his name out there. And I think while his home run numbers are not, you know, amazing, he's hitting 288, 7 home runs, and 36 RBIs. But the 36 RBIs are more of a testament to how bad the Red Sox offense is, more than him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to stuff the ballot for a Boston guy, I don't think there's a better guy to do so. with the way the voting system is currently constituted.
Yeah.
My big thing with Stephen Kwan more than anything is there's not a guy that's been this close to 400 for this long for a while. Like Luis Arias was somebody that was flirting with it for a lot last year.
Yeah.
And then he kind of just fell off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think Kwan, he's been kind of getting banged up, but he's not coming back from injury and then immediately going like 0 for 8.
Right.
He's keeping that consistency together where you could realistically see him in August batting like 385 and going like, okay, he can make a charge. He may not get to 400, but he's a guy that I don't think is going to be hitting like 292 by the end of the year.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to have that precipitous decline where he's going to just be completely out of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean,
Like, yeah, he doesn't have the things right now where he's I think he needs a I don't know what in terms of like plate appearances to get back into the actual like batting race.
Okay.
But he's a guy that I think we're going to be talking about in like a month and a half, and there's going to be serious arguments about whether or not this guy can get to 400.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's fun. I think.
No, I agree. I don't see anything wrong with your argument. And again, we talked about it a bunch. What the Guardians are doing this year. I have 2 guys in my lineup from that team. So it's testament to how well they're doing this year. And he is a big part of that team and where they stand today.
And with that final note, we'll go to the DH in the AL. And do you have a Guardian here, or are you with me in selecting Yordan Alvarez as the DH in the American League?
No, I picked Yordan Alvarez. I mean, I think it would have been an easy way out to go with Stanton, but I picked Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah, I think especially with how Houston has dragged themselves out of that basement.
Yeah.
And they're starting to look super dangerous again, despite half their team being injured.
And also, speaking of injured, I also thought that like is Stanton gonna be healthy by the All-Star game?
Yeah,
he's already exiting games.
And looking at things where you kind of don't want to like take that into account. Where this guy's injured, so we're just going to negate his accomplishments because he may not play. No, I'm with you. Where like if you're going to use that as a tiebreaker, I think that's a worthwhile tiebreaker of which guy is more likely to play, despite Yordan Alvarez taking a seat last year.
Yeah,
that's. I think he's the guy that you got to pick. He is just in terms of what they have on the ballot at DH. I don't think there's another choice.
No, I don't. I agree with you.
Now, with the American League complete, let us go to the first base spot in the National League, where there is a lot to choose from.
There is.
In my opinion. Who do you got?
I have Bryce Harper.
And much to the probably shock and awe of our few regular viewers, I'm joining you. I'm not taking Freddie Freeman. I'm also taking Bryce Harper.
I thought you were gonna go with Freddie Freeman.
I thought I was going to too when I was putting the ballot together, because and we're going to talk about injuries soon. Like I had initially when I put it together a couple days ago, I had 4 Dodgers on here, and
Okay.
I talked myself out of a couple of them
Yep.
on a couple occasions because of injuries, and another one because I think, and in this case, I talked myself into Bryce Harper because I don't have another Philadelphia guy in the starting lineup.
Okay.
And I think for a team that is dominating that division the way they are, to not have anybody in the starting lineup of the All-Star game would be criminal. And
So
that's why I completely just 180 to him. And that's not to say he's not deserving, but that's kind of where I made that complete U-turn.
I had a mix of my team in the beginning was so messed up that I had basically all Phillies and Dodgers as the National League, and I just rewrote everything. Freddie Freeman didn't make the list. It was still always going to be Bryce Harper, but it was close. It was so close. Um,
That is one of that is easily
but I
one
can
of
tell you right
the
now, if he was ready to play, Mookie Betts would have been the unanimous second baseman.
where do they list him on here?
I
Do they
think they
list him at
I think they list him at
I think
second
they list
base.
him as short.
Oh, do they list him at short?
Yeah.
Oh, they do. Okay, well, he would have been the unanimous whatever
Yeah.
position. Um, but obviously, I had to change. We all had to change course because he's not playing. Um, but yeah, so I only have 2 Dodgers uh, on the list right now, and obviously, one of them. Um,
Yeah.
but and I only have 1 Phillies because I got rid of Alex Baum.
Oh, okay.
So he was the third baseman. He's not anymore. Um, so, but I have, spoiler alert, 2 Phillies pitchers for the All-Star game.
And that and if we're gonna just put that as a tease, that's what we'll be talking about next week. So
Yeah.
come back for that episode where there will be probably a picture of somebody from like the MLB equivalent of the NFL Blitz games. Was it? I can't remember.
No, that was the
Hits, whatever.
Slugfest. Was it
No,
Slugfest?
Slugfest, yeah.
Yeah,
Hits
yeah.
was the hockey game,
That's right. That's right.
but
Slugfest.
yeah, we'll have that in the background.
Cool.
But yeah, I think Bryce Harper in the end is I think a very solid choice. Moving on to second base, I think we may differ here.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you got?
You go first.
I'll tell you, I got Kettle Marte.
That's who I have to.
All right.
Yeah.
we thought we were going to be super different in the NL, and we're
That's who I have to. Because at first I thought that Luis was at second base. Because didn't he play second base last year?
But yeah, I think his
And now they
move
have him
from,
listed at third base.
but moving from he may be playing there in San Diego now.
Okay.
On the ballot, he's listed on second base, but I think he in the general thing may be listed in several different positions, which makes it kind of hard to track him down, which stinks because you got to kind of have that steadfastness with these things where like, oh, this guy may be a utility guy, but in terms of this, just be like, hey, here, just
I
make
could
it
have
this.
sworn when he was with Miami, he got to the All-Star game as a second baseman.
Yeah. So if you're gonna pick him as a second baseman for anybody out there voting, that's where I believe he is on the ballot at this point. So if you're gonna vote for Luis Arias, who I think is
No, he
leading.
does. He's listed at first base, man, isn't he?
Uh, he as of today, he is on the ballot as second base.
Oh, well, then he's my pick. Then I'm going to pick him as second base.
Okay,
Yeah, because I wanted to pick him as
I'm gonna
second
stick with
base.
Kel Marte, but
Okay.
I think it is you're basically just arguing between which guy that sets the table you like more.
Yeah.
You like a guy that can get on base more and cause chaos, or you like a guy that can hit a couple more home runs.
Yep.
I think that's that's the general argument that you're making between the two.
Yep.
And I don't think either one is something that people can particularly throw darts at.
Yeah.
All right, and you've kind of shown your hand with the next one. After lots of hemming and hawing, I did kind of go chalky and pick Alec Baum at third base from the Phillies.
Okay.
What do you
All
got?
right. Ryan McMahon.
You have made this
my Rocky selection.
your Rockies Hill.
Yep.
That's not a bad shout in terms of
280, 14 homers, 42 RBI for a team that is utter garbage. Like I'm saying Ryan McMahon should and probably will be traded on July 31st.
Yeah, he's probably not long for this world in Colorado.
You just look, if we're gonna do what we talked about and give a representation from every team, I think it has to be him.
Yeah, and if it's something where you got to get him in this way to keep that that away from the players and the managers to vote in some weird like middle reliever, I'm with you on that front, because if Ryan McMahon was voted in as a starter, you're going to go, okay,
yeah, fair enough.
The team stinks, but his numbers back it up. Yeah. Whereas like Alec Baum, if he didn't get voted in, you're like, he's going to make it as a reserve fucking slam dunk.
Exactly.
No question about it.
Yeah.
So you got to get both guys in.
And again, when I told you that my team was mostly Dodgers and Phillies, he was the third baseman. And I kind of reworked the whole team, and Ryan McMahon I put as third base.
Yeah. And speaking of of spots where there was a Dodger that I had to pivot from, looking at shortstop. Maybe we got the same here now that we're not going with Mookie Betts.
Maybe. Who do you got?
I got Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah, I got him too.
And more than anything, I think that this is it is meritorious.
Yep.
Because of his numbers, how he is just absolutely crushing it in the stolen base department, and his defense is more than anything. God, it fucking pains my soul to say it. Like all of these things were like his throwing speed and these. It's something where, in the grand scheme of things, shouldn't fucking mean anything.
Right.
Like who really gives a fuck how fast you can throw at the first base? But it is something where it is getting recognition through a lot of big time channels, and there's a lot of the clip with fucking Snoop Dogg.
Yep.
It was something that was seen through all of the platforms close to like 10 million times.
Yep.
And that's something that baseball should capitalize on.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Being a borderline guy in terms of if you're going to take him over Mookie, with Mookie being hurt, I think you just immediately take that away and you put him in. And if you don't, then you're really doing your sport a disservice.
And also, if you haven't, because this team is kind of not that great, he's a fun player to watch.
Yes.
And if you
about the All-Star game should be more than just fun.
Exactly. And if you want to bring the youth into your sport, which is a big kind of talking point about baseball these days, You gotta market it around these kind of players. Relatable people.
Guys that in a game that is an exhibition are going
Yeah.
to give you content to market your sport around.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like, would you be shocked if he entered the home run derby?
Not really, especially if they have a couple guys like drop out.
Right.
Just because he's a guy that would bring a lot of like flair to it, and he was a guy that
Exactly.
would also be just like fun to have like David Ortiz go out and like interview in
Or
between things.
like,
You could
or how,
have a lot of interactions.
or like, how great would that be if like he brought Snoop Dogg to the All Star game and there was
That
some kind of
see that that,
banter,
that
you
shit
know?
would be fun.
Yeah, like that's the kind of thing you got to do baseball if you want to attract younger audiences. If you want to beat football or basketball or be on their level, this is the kind of stuff you got to do. And he's the kind of player you got to do it with.
Yeah, I'm
So,
with you. Like, and like I think you don't need to like usurp any of those sports in like one fell swoop. But if to get just get yourself on the path.
yeah.
You gotta just capitalize on these things, and uh, I'm really hoping that they don't shoot themselves in the foot, at least with this one.
No, yeah, same thing.
So moving on to close out the infield, I think we've both shown our hands that we're both picking Will Smith.
Yep.
He's currently, uh, I believe, outside of the top three.
Wait, who's in the top three?
It is William Contreras from the Brewers,
Okay.
who's having a
Okay.
good year,
Yep.
but it has been hurt recently. And the ballot stuffing from Philadelphia with JT
Oh,
Realmuto.
JT Realmuto. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, all right. I get that, but like, I just told you, I think Will Smith is the second best catcher in baseball behind
Yeah,
everyone.
I don't think we even need to have like a discussion about this.
No, no,
He's a
and then
guy that has been vital to that lineup as players have gone down around. Dave Roberts has been able to shift him into so many different spots in that lineup to be both a table setter or be a guy to drive guys in, and he's excelled in all of those instances, all while dealing with a very up and down rotation. There's been got like before he got hurt, he really fucking pulled Yamamoto out of
yeah,
his funk, and I think for
and
all the plaudits we gave Rushman for his offensive work, the stuff that Will Smith has done with this pitching staff, which is kind of piecework, which is wild to say about a team that has spent the amount of money that the Dodgers.
so this is my view of it is that Will Smith is such a good catcher that he can basically call a good game with anybody the Dodgers bring in. And that's hard to do, you know. Sometimes you don't have a repertoire with somebody. And the Dodgers, where they're constantly upgrading their pitching rotation and switching guys in and out and getting guys like Yamamoto or Glasnow or someone new to him and how quickly he's been able to get everybody in that rotation on board shows, why the Dodgers were so favorable coming into the season after that giant offseason they had.
Yeah,
Because it could have went south. It could have totally went south.
yeah, it could have been.
Glasnow went in and just got destroyed by whoever, by the Padres or Yamamoto, after his first game, kind of went downhill after that.
Yep.
And he's able to change the game.
Yeah, and I think that is incredibly important and something
And
that
he
a lot of voters don't look at. They just look at, average home run, and then just stop there, which kind of
and
stinks. But
and if you don't think that Will Smith is going to be insurmountable to the comeback of Otani, Like it's going to be big.
Yeah. And
Speaking of
speaking
DH,
of,
speaking of DH, the probably the leading
do we want to just
probably to go on.
we'll go to DH and then we'll come back to the outfield because
Yeah,
we both pick Otani, right?
of course, but
We're just
not
gonna not bury
he.
the lead.
I mean, he's going to be the leading vote getter in all of baseball.
Yeah,
He has to be. So
like,
yeah,
it's I feel to save that for last
to fight.
is a bit incredulous
Yeah, why
because
bother?
I think our the outfield in the NL is the one that is probably the most variance between our picks more than
Yeah,
anything. Whereas
yep,
that one is like, yeah, just pick Otani. What the fuck are you talking about? Just
yeah.
don't
Why not?
don't
Like
don't make things difficult on yourself.
no.
All right. So while I wanted to go all three AL outfielders at once,
Hmm.
I think we should go one by one with the NL outfield to close things out.
Okay.
And if you say somebody that I have, we'll just be like, boom, we'll move on. We got that.
Okay.
But if there's a difference, then we'll have a bit of a discussion. How's that work for you?
Sound good.
All right. Fire away on your first one, brother.
So what are we at? Shall we do in left field? What are we doing first? Does it
Dealer's
matter?
choice.
All right.
Whatever
So
outfielder
okay.
you want to pick first.
So left field, I got Tiago Hernandez.
All right. I left him out of mine entirely.
Oh, okay. I
And
just think that
that's
he's a guy that, like, speaking from experience, that the Red Sox were supposed to get, and he went to the Dodgers, and I thought he went to the Dodgers to come off the bench, but he was in that lineup, and he is mashing the ball.
yeah,
And
he is probably my fourth outfielder
okay,
because just because of those power numbers and for what he's brought to the table in that clubhouse. He's
yeah,
been an incredibly positive influence, and he's been a guy that has really just kept things together as these injuries mount.
yep,
And I I really wanted to put him in that lineup, but I kind of just talked myself out of it
okay.
because I had
Now I'm
the
curious to know. I think maybe we have one other the same, but I'm curious to know who do you have?
so my guy in that spot is Lourdes Gurriel.
Okay.
And from that,
Is it because
it,
of like you're a representative for? No, because you have
no,
Marte.
because I have Kevin Marte as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
And my thing with Arizona is I still think there's a lot of like upward trajectory with them.
Like
And
back to the World Series trajectory.
oh no,
Okay.
there's no.
All right.
But I think it's a team that right now is kind of being overlooked with where
Okay.
they are in the standings, just because the NL West is there's pretty much what four I think four teams under 500,
Hmm.
and then it's the oh all right the Padres are at 500, and then it's the
Yeah.
Dodgers in first. And it kind of really uh, puts a bad coat of paint on how good a lot of the offensive guys for Arizona have been. And
Yeah.
I think that, yeah. Do I think Teoscar Hernandez is a guy that deserves to be an all-star? And with the way this voting is going, with Gurriel being outside of the top five right now, does he have a kind of a shot to break into there? Probably not. But this is just kind of where my head's at in terms of giving guys their flowers for this point in the season. I think that your pick of Hernandez has a better shot of getting into the starting lineup than mine, but I just wanted to put it out there.
Okay. Cool.
All right, I'll go first on this next one,
Okay.
and this is more than anything giving. Well, we're talking about giving flowers. Is probably the only guy that I would pick from this roster currently,
Okay.
which is weird to say for a team in first place. And it's Christian Yelich from the Milwaukee Brewers.
Okay.
Currently, I believe, let me go down. He's currently second in the balloting right now for outfielders.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can't argue with that pick. Um, I did not go with him just because I wanted to give another player a possible spot for other reasons. But now that I think about it, like your pick is way more deserving than my pick.
But all right, so we're just flip flopping this last one because your pick
Yeah.
is just way more deserving than mine. So who do you got? And we'll speed run through this so we can go to the final one.
I picked O'Neal Cruz. And
Right.
it was more of the range of like the whole Harry de Cruz thing about just somebody that you first of all, it's a pirate representative that's not Skeens and or Mitch Keller, who I think is probably gonna make it. Um, but I think that he's always one of the highlight guys on that Pirates team. And while the Pirates
An
are
excitement
not
guy.
a what? An
An
exciting guy, yeah.
excitement guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while the Pirates are not uh, cream of the crop when the time comes to the sport. I think that, you know, the All Star game is meant to show off some exciting players.
Yeah.
And I think that he is someone that can bring, whether he steals a base when they need it or hits a home run when they need it. He's a guy that, like, you never think of, but could absolutely hit a walk-off home run.
Yeah.
And the Pirates, while they're starting to be all about skiing and rightfully so, um, I think if you're a fan of the Pirate, you're definitely also going to watch him play too.
Yeah. Cruz and Hayes are two big guys that you really
Yeah, another one too.
you really just want to turn that corner more than anything.
Yeah.
I'm with you on
So
that front.
yeah, that's why I went with him over Yelich. And if we're gonna talk about who's getting in, it's 100% Yelich over O'Neal Cruz. But I just think that, like, more so of a deserving player in terms of exciting and pick from a team than Ryan McMahon. Where Ryan McMahon, I still think is the best player on the Rockies. I think O'Neal Cruz is the most exciting player from a bad team.
Yeah, because like you're talking about Skeens, you could definitely think about him. You could think about Jones.
But the thing about
You
schemes
could
and
think
stuff
about
is that,
Brian
like,
Reynolds. But
yeah,
if you're going to pick
Ryan
a guy from
Meadows,
the Pirates that's going to make the biggest impact, and his numbers are decent enough where he doesn't feel like an outlier.
no.
Yeah, O'Neal Cruz is a guy that you definitely want to try to get to that All-Star game.
And the thing about Skeens and the thing about Mitch Keller and all these guys is that, like, where the pitcher, you only see them once every 5 days. Where O'Neal Cruz is an everyday player, you can go to the ballpark when Skeens isn't pitching and
Yeah.
see him, do some exciting stuff.
Yeah.
So,
And with all that being said, our final selection of the evening. Let's see if we go out on a match. Who do you got?
Fernando Tatis Jr.
We're going out on a match. Yeah, I think it's a guy that I really think baseball wants to erase all
The steroid stuff, yeah.
all the grossness that came with his suspension.
Hmm.
He's playing incredibly well for San Diego. It's a team that needs for all of the salary shedding they did. Like Manny Machado is not that guy this year.
Hmm.
They need
Even though he's
they
second,
need Tatis.
and he's second and third base, from what I looked at it, I think.
Yeah, Machado's had a rough year.
Yeah, he
But
has.
Tatis is a guy that I think is another one of those ones that the league needs. They need him.
They do. They do need him.
And
And
he's a guy that I also think that they may try to like shoehorn into the home run derby, even if
yeah.
he's not in that section.
And again, it's
Because
about when it comes to the All-Star game where your best and brightest show, it really at baseball marketing division should look at it as let's get the guys in that can bring the youth to watch our sport and gravitate to our sport and sell those jerseys and and you know make it exciting for people who want to play baseball over basketball or football again. And these are the kind of guys that you have to market around.
yeah, and this is one of those things where I think the merit and the market meet in good stead,
Yeah,
where you kind of you need that guy to put him on those marketing flyers and just be like, hey, this guy's gonna be in the home run derby, yada yada yada. And it's also meritorious where he is having a very good season, both surprisingly in the field and
offensively.
as a hitter for a team that is kind of finding their way
Uh-huh.
after after they moved Soto and they moved on from Blake Snell and they got a lot of guys that they're trying to just pull up what's left of their their prospects.
Yeah,
Like guys like Merrill, who they're like, well, we don't really know who we have left here to fill a lot of these spots in.
and 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 and
You have
and
been in our like top 10 prospects for 4 years. Let's see what we can get out of you. Like
and
Jackson Merrill is a guy that I think is a sneaky pick to be like a end of the roster guy for the National League.
yeah,
Like I obviously we're taking Tatis over him, but he's a guy that if he ended up being uh even on like the final ballot or something like that,
right.
I don't think it'd be really out of place.
And where Machado is having a terrible year, and in my opinion, since leaving, you don't hear about Bogarts anymore.
Nah,
He's
he's
kind of
been hit
disappeared.
constantly.
Yeah, and so you gotta have to lean on Tatis
Yeah.
to beat that guy. So yeah, so that's it. Just to wrap this up, I just want to name 5 MLB teams that we did not pick a player from: the Chicago Cubs, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Atlanta Braves, the St. Louis Cardinals, and the New York Mets. Do not have representation from us.
And the most shocking one of that for me is the Braves.
Me too. I'm right there with
And
you.
I think
And with
Ronald
the
Acuna getting hurt is the biggest part of
yeah,
that.
yeah, and I would say the Cubs are right behind them.
I think the Cubs are going to get it probably
Right.
a pitcher and
Yeah. I
maybe
think Soto's probably gonna get in.
yeah.
No, you don't think
And
so?
I don't know. That's what we were saying about the National League being so wide open. I don't know what they're going to take from
Yeah.
teams. I think it's going to be a weird that's going to be a weird roster. Like the AL, when you see the reserves and the final people picked, you're going to be like, that kind of makes sense. Where the NL, you're like, it's going to be a lot of like Anvil reactions from the rest of them, like him.
Which
Yep.
I only say this because we have a lot of friends that are Mets fans. Who do you think gets in from the Mets?
That's a tough one.
It
Ah,
is. It
God,
is.
it
Is it safer to go Pete Alonso, or do you go with somebody else?
yeah,
You go with You go with Lindor.
I just I don't think they're gonna get a hitter in there. I think if anything, it's gonna be a pitcher. as weird as that sounds, just because of how up and down their pitching staff has been this year.
Yeah.
But I really I can't say.
Oh, we also don't have a Mariner in there either.
Yeah, I think they'll probably get.
We'll probably get Julio in there.
Yeah, or they'll get Munoz.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the Mets,
yeah, it's rough.
Severino maybe.
Yeah.
Because normally you try to like just pencil Diaz in there, but he's had a rough go of it. I think if you're taking a pitcher, you're taking Severino. If you're taking a hitter, you're probably gonna take.
Honestly,
you're gonna take Pete Alonso because you can stick him in the home run derby.
Sure, but looking at numbers,
JD Martinez.
JD Martinez.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, look, nobody has more than.
But going back to what we were talking about,
43 RBIs is the highest anyone's got on that team. And are you really going to stick Brandon Nimmo in there? No, you're not. So, I mean.
But yeah. Well, and especially to our friends who are Mets fans, let us know who you think from the Mets is going to make the All-Star team, and everybody else that comes across this video in whatever channel you're seeing in.
Let us know.
Obviously, you're not seeing it on Facebook right now because we need to get 9 more followers to the page to be able to stream there again. So if you're seeing this on YouTube or Twitch, go over to the Facebook page, Bleeding Your Colors. Just type that in, hit a little follow skis, and so we can get to 100 people and then get back on that platform again because Mark Zuckerberg hates small creators.
Also, and let us know if we missed anybody.
Yeah, more than anything, especially with the starting lineups.
Yeah,
just give us a case, even if we're like, oh, that doesn't make sense to us. If you like, put a case out there and people can kind of work off that. This is not binary. This is not something where we're right, this is wrong. We've had so much deviation from just our 2 picks, and there's arguments to be made for third parties across the board, outside of probably like 2 positions, outside of probably like Rushman,
and like you said,
other than that, there's lots of conversations to be had. So just put them in there, and we can get there, and we can kind of interact with it and have a good time.
And like you said, how many times did we think we had the same player and we didn't? So
no,
it's an interesting and fun conversation to have this time of year, and I think that this year more than ever, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel this year more than ever, it's not as cut and dry as it used to be.
Yeah, there's not a lot of runaway picks.
Yeah, but yeah.
And on that note, next week we're gonna hopefully get the results of the phase 1 of the ballots. I think that comes out the 27th, so that will be before we record next, and we'll be able to react to that. We'll talk about the pictures that we're going to put in, and I think we're going to have that. I think that's going to be a fun discussion too. We'll have that fun mix of starters and relievers, and trying to find that balance between the 2 leagues.
And that might be where those teams that I mentioned we didn't pick a player from, they might fall with the pitchers.
Yeah.
Like
the
Braves, for example.
That's gonna fill a lot of gaps. You're gonna get the Max Frieds and the Chris Sales of the world in that front.
Yep. So, and also, like, if we didn't have a conversation about Duran, that probably would have Red Sox pitchers players would have been.
True. So with that being said, this has been episode 67 of Opposite Field. I'm Trevor. This is Colin, as I'm pointing the wrong way. And thank y'all for joining us on a Sunday night baseball evening. And we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Pleasure as always.